Hello everybody, my name is Will and welcome back to Flyout once again. Today we're going to be doing a plane in the same universe as I was building a tank in the last video that I uploaded on this channel. So if you don't watch the Sprocket videos, or you haven't watched that Sprocket video in particular, or perhaps you're even a new viewer, sometimes I get those, then I will give you a quick rundown of the lore. So basically, the idea is we are currently pretending to be a real world. Well, not a real world, a fake world that I have made up. And the map of that is going to be on the screen now. And I'm not going to keep it up forever, so if you do want to really analyze it, then I suggest you pause the video and have a look at this proper. There will also be a version of this available at request in my Discord. If you just want it, just let me know. I should be able to get it for you so long as I have access to my computer. I posted a high quality one a while ago. I can't remember if I pinned it or not. I feel like I really should, but that is all going on in the vehicle lore channel of my Discord, which is linked in the description. So if you want to write up some lore for any of the countries, write up the lore for the vehicles, then feel free. I will not be using other people's designs in this world. The idea is that I'm going to design anything and everything that we use in this myself, but feel free to design something alongside the world as like a bit of a headcanon. That's fine by me, I don't mind. Just understand that it's probably not going to be featured in a video unless I do a big video where I showcase a bunch of designs that a bunch of people have come up with for this world. But regardless, we'll get on to the actual plane in question, and this is called the A Harpy. That is the name of the thing. It is a 9-cylinder radial engine. It has even a 9-cylinder radial engine, pumping out just about 550 kilowatts of power. That is not a huge amount, and this is kind of canonically meant to be designed in the late 20s, early 30s kind of territory. A little bit earlier than the tank we made in the previous video, probably, but it probably got thought of as a concept around about the same time. It's just that everything was ready for the plane a little bit sooner, and perhaps it was built a little bit more safely, I guess. But yeah, this is a slightly unusual aircraft in the sense that I wanted to go with one of those aerodynamic cowlings. Now, I'm assuming it's aerodynamics that they do this for, but like on various versions of the PO2, you can see like there is a cowling wrapped around the individual cylinders of the radial engine, which I'm assuming is aerodynamics. I could very much be wrong with that, but I just think it's a good look for a plane, so I decided that I wanted to give a go at that myself. That's quite complex to do within the Flyout builder, so I do hope you appreciate my effort. It was maybe not the finest thing that could have been done. I'm sure people have done better jobs, but ultimately, given my skills within the Flyout builder, I'm pretty proud of how that came out. That's pretty much how it stays for the rest of the video. As you can tell, it took me a long time. We're sped up right now, and it's already 3 minutes into the video, and I've barely moved on to the basic shape of the fuselage, let alone the wings, the tail, all of that stuff. This plane, yeah, it took me quite a long time to get it right. But as I was saying, this plane is designed for Chisford, which is the yellow country just on the east coast before you reach Pursbury. So Chisford stands alone in this world. They're kind of almost the big bad guy, if you will, and we're designing their vehicles first because they're one of the more industrial countries of this map region. They are in a fairly good position in terms of their finances, in terms of their industry, in terms of their population size. Things are good for Chisford. However, the problems that they hold is that to their south, Axeland and West Carrier are in an alliance, and to their north, you've got Sorrowland, Newchester, both in alliance, and Pursbury is in on that as well, but probably less so than those two are in an alliance together. So Chisford is a little bit uneasy at this state of affairs. They're not a huge fan of the fact that all these countries around them are kind of forming big coalitions, because it's a little bit scary, especially if you're a country with fairly valuable resources, as Chisford is. So, that said, Chisford is planning a preemptive strike to the south, the alliance that they deem to be the weaker alliance, where they plan to knock out Axeland from any war as soon as physically possible. The capital of Axeland is to the north of a little river, and so they don't have to cross the river to get there. That's kind of their goal, so that's kind of the situation as it stands right now. So what they are doing is they're designing a tank, which you can see in the previous video, and that has been designed in secret, and it's kind of intended to be a breakthrough tank that they can use as like a main force to push in, create a gap through the lines, push infantry through. You know the kind of deal. Yeah, you've seen this one before. And this plane would already be on the scene. This plane is already there. This plane is in active service with Chisford and has been for a number of years. It's a tried, it's a tested design, and it is a bit of an oddity as far as biplanes go, due to it's got a supercharger on the radial engine. However, it's proven to be fairly reliable enough, and it's easy enough to maintain, as well as being a little durable. However, it's getting long in the tooth by this point in time. You know, monoplane designs are clearly going to be the way forward. They're not mainstay just yet, but there's definitely a couple of monoplane designs that are giving biplane designers a little bit of a headache when it comes to the design competitions and getting those government contracts. But yeah, this is one of the old guard. This is one of the existing planes that they already have in production. Now, I would imagine with a country like Chisford, which is preparing for war, they would have this aircraft in relatively large numbers. And when I say relatively large numbers, I'm not talking wartime numbers. I'm not talking BF-109, like, you know, 40,000 built. I think that's more Spitfire numbers, to be fair. I think the 109 was slightly higher than the Spitfire, I want to say. Maybe it was slightly lower. I can't remember. Off the top of my head, I don't know those numbers. It's not important. It's not built in that many numbers. It's probably built in the same kind of numbers as if you think of the Hawker Hart, for instance. A very solid aircraft, but not immediately necessary in war. So they built, you know what, the Wikipedia page does not tell me immediately how many Hearts that they built. I'm gonna say it was probably in the range of about 1,000. I'm gonna completely guess at that one. I could be entirely wrong. But yeah, that's the situation that this plane finds itself in. And fingers crossed you like the look of this thing, because ultimately that's kind of what you're here for, I guess, if we're watching the video. I'm sure there's a fair number of you who really enjoyed me going a little bit more into the technical reasons and kind of position of this aircraft within the world, but that's about all I have to say about this at the moment. And we did bring up the Hawker Hart, so I'm going to take this opportunity to completely transition away from the aircraft that I'm building, while you watch me building the elevator and the rudder, and we're going to talk instead about how awesome the Hawker Hart was, because this is a plane I genuinely didn't know existed for the longest time, and yet it was built it first flew in 1928. It went on to an introduction in 1930, and it was absolutely incredible. Really, really, really solid aircraft. Those of you who have played War Thunder, I think will have heard of this thing as the Hawker Demon? I believe the Demon's in War Thunder? No, maybe it isn't. Okay. You might have heard of it as the Hawker Demon. I believe. Yeah, so I've checked up my facts a little bit, and this is, in fact, the Hawker Hart that we're talking about is the light bomber version of the Hawker Fury. That is the one that's in War Thunder. I knew one of the variants of this thing were, because they were just absolutely everywhere. They were all over the place, and it's a really cool little plane. It was very, very good for its time, and so basically everybody in the Commonwealth got them. The Royal Air Force built absolutely loads of them, even though they were in peacetime and they didn't really have a lot of coffers going around. really cool plane. It needs more appreciation. That's basically my entire point. I watched a video someone did on the Hawker Heart. I believe it was Rex's hangar. It was 1 year ago. So it's called Hawker Heart, the bomber that no fighter could catch in 1930. And yeah, that was a good video, and it really got me interested in this kind of era of aircraft, because it's one that doesn't get a lot of attention. Rightly so, to be entirely honest. There's not a lot of planes that really got produced in large numbers, and a lot of the planes are very much antiquated before they even get into service, because the technology at this time was absolutely skyrocketing up. It's very similar in vibes to kind of that early jet era, where they just made leaps and bounds in a few years. But the result of that is much like the early jet era, which I feel like gets a lot more appreciation than this early like transition to monoplane and when engines really started getting powerful. This era has so many absolutely crazy designs. Obviously, the Hawker Heart is not one of those. It's a very traditional design as we understand it, because it kind of set the tradition and was a bit of a basis from which they could design a lot of their planes from that point on. I believe Hawker Heart, the kind of general vibe of the Hawker Heart was used as the basis for how the Hurricane was designed. If you look at the two planes side by side, you can see quite a lot of similarities between the design principles. Obviously, that's not a surprise. They're both designed by Hawker, but you know, you get the idea. Sometimes someone will build a plane and they'll completely change their mind, and they'll build a really famous plane, and that other plane that they built that no one's ever heard of looks absolutely nothing like it. This is not one of those situations. I am on an absolute tangent, and because I've been ill lately, which is why I've not uploaded in a while, my throat is absolutely killing me. So I'm just going to have to disappear for a second. I'll pause so you don't have to wait a second, but goodness me, I cannot breathe. You know, I've gotten so wrapped up talking about, like, history and also the plane that we're building and the world that it's built within that I haven't actually hit the elephant in the room, which is the last time that I uploaded a video on this channel was on the 1st of July. So it's been 9-10 days, depending on when this gets uploaded, if I manage to get it done today as of speaking these words. Which, fingers crossed I do, because that would be nice. I don't want to have to make you wait any longer. It is because I absolutely died of a flu that went straight for my throat. I maybe could have built a aircraft and just recorded it, but I wasn't really in the mood in the first place, and I definitely couldn't do any voiceovers, so there was no way that I was going to be talking through an entire video worth of stuff. I feel good enough today that I absolutely can do that. You might hear something a little bit off with my voice, but I don't think it's too bad. It shouldn't be too noticeable. But yeah. At this point, though, given that this channel's uploads are not consistent in the first place, is it really that unusual that there's 9 days between videos? And if you're new here, please subscribe. I swear it's great here. It's just like this, you know? There's a little bit of chaos going on, and a little bit of a back and forth constantly. People are telling me that I forget to upload vehicles to the vehicle repositories in my Discord, and then I cry a little bit inside every single time because I know that they're correct, and I know that the dementia is coming for me sooner than I would really like. That was a little bit real. I'll level with you, that was a little further than I expected to go with that one, so let's just tone it back a little bit. If you like pictures of tanks on that matter, I have a Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at, I think it's at PatchBitsYT. I know a lot of people don't use Twitter anymore, and that's perfectly reasonable. However, I'm kind of drip feeding a bunch of tanks onto that platform. I've uploaded a little video of a Churchill driving around the Kuwait Stadium at the Tank Museum. There's a picture of an M24 Chaffee. If you want to go follow me there, sometimes I post things. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're pictures of tanks. Sometimes they're a selfie of me and an animatronic dude at the museum who looks just way too happy to be there. I think he was standing next to the A1E1 Independent on a pile of dirt. I believe that's where I found him. I had to lean really quite far back to actually get a selfie with him. But, you know, there it is. And if you don't know what my face looks like, there you can find it on there. Look at that. That's enticing, isn't it? Right, anyway. What... what were we on about? Yes, Tank Fest. Actually, that's a great thing to talk about. I know we're talking about aircraft right now, so maybe Tank Fest is not the best thing to talk about, but if you didn't know, I was there very recently, and I seem to have missed everybody in my entire Discord. Everybody was like, oh, I was there and I didn't see you. I was wearing a shirt that had the avatar of my channel on, driving a tank with big capital letters saying tanks and then an exclamation point on. Entirely honestly, I don't know if I can make it any more obvious who I was. But it's fine. It's fine. I don't take it personally. I met one of yous. I met one single person and they were wearing Laser Pig merch, which means I should release my own merch. And I think I said that in the last video as well. But I need to release my own merch so that I can prove that I am more powerful than Laser Pig and could kill him given the chance. That is way too far again. We have absolutely gone too far. I've still got some kind of slight delirium going on in my head, clearly, from this illness. And that combined with the fact that I have now been yabbering on about nothing in particular for a quarter of an hour. If you're still here, honestly, well done. I don't know how you've made it this far. But if you have made it this far, are you subscribed? There you go, look at that. That is the YouTube mentality right there. And if you are subscribed, do you have notifications on? Do you want notifications on? I'm not going to pressure you to have notifications on. It would be preferable for me if you had notifications on. However, you don't have to have notifications on. Right, now that everyone who's left has left because they absolutely don't want to hear a YouTuber talking about that, shall we get back to the plane in question for this video? So we are just doing the struts for this plane, and I think this is something that really ties this thing together. Obviously, a biplane tends to have struts on its wings, and they just look unnatural without them, because a lot of what we think looks good on a plane is kind of based on familiarity. So as you can see, here we are putting some struts on. We didn't go super heavy on the struttage because this is meant to be kind of a late biplane. The wings would be relatively reinforced. They only really need to be tied together in order to support the top wing, but the top wing in itself would be structurally integral with itself, if that makes any sense. The materials, the design, it would all be good enough that you don't need to go absolutely crazy on the strutting like I did with my World War I design, which I made an extremely long time ago now. I feel like that was barely a few months after the game was given to me. I don't even know if it was out yet at that point in time. I feel like it was, but I can't guarantee you that. If you haven't watched that World War I plane video, honestly, I don't blame you. I wasn't as good at building planes as I am now in that video. And hopefully, those of you who have watched since then agree with that statement and think that this is genuinely one of the prettier planes I've made. Because I do think we've cooked here, you know? We've been putting this one in the oven and letting it cook for a while, and we got something good coming on here. This is me just doing the landing gear struttage. Obviously, this is a early aircraft. It does not have a retractable landing gear, much in the way that you don't get on the Heart. That's very much one of my bigger inspirations for this thing, as well as, weirdly enough, I got a bit of inspiration from the J2M4 with the turbocharged radial engine at the front. The way that the radial engine cowling has a very small intake at the front, that's something that I went with this. At the moment you won't see it because we just have the propeller on there, but eventually I do fare in the gearbox and the propeller into a cowling, which kind of narrows the gap between the cowling and the cowling, I guess. Maybe I could have come up with a better phrase to describe that. The fairing and the cowling is probably a better way to go. Yeah, that, and also the F3F was another plane that I was looking at. I don't really know where all the F3F went. It doesn't look a lot like the F3F in any way, shape or form. It is nowhere near like a barrel enough to be that. It definitely gives me vibes of I want to say it feels slightly British, but also it could be almost Romanian. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe you have an idea of where this plane would be if it was a real-life aircraft. But obviously, within our world, we know it's from Chisford, which is based on how I generated the map. That is a European culture group. So we're going to go... Chisford is probably fairly English or English-esque in the universe that we're in. However, in this case, England... are the aggressors, I guess. England being Chisford. Honestly, I keep digging myself holes. I should just stop doing that. And now my cat has come into the room just to make sure that there's a very, very small chance that you could just hear a meow in the distance. Yeah. She's there, she's existing, she probably needs to be fed again, even though I only fed her about 5 minutes ago. I've been at work all day, she deserves it. She's been working hard at laying and doing absolutely nothing for like 150 hours straight. She is currently climbing up my chair, the back of my chair, which is not the most comfortable thing, I can't really lie, but there you go. Yeah, the plane is nearly done now in terms of its general shape, so outside of this building segment, because I knew it was getting on a little bit, I did do quite a lot of refinement, but it's generally fairly small bits and pieces that I did that kind of come together to make the whole thing look quite a lot better. For instance, I threw a paint job on there, which helped sell the fact that it was actually a real plane and not just default metal texture in a specific shape. I'm not crazy on the default material that Flyout has you use. It feels very I don't know how to describe it, but almost Robloxy? I don't know. It's a bit of a strange material. I know it's meant to be the paneling on an aircraft, but the fact that it never lines up with where the panels would actually be, it looks very patchwork almost. The panels should be bigger, but then there should be small panels. I don't know. Not a huge fan, so I tend to make my planes look quite a lot smoother than that. But you see these people doing custom panels and weathering. I wish I could do it, but I can't pull it off, man. Okay, so here is the finished product. This is the FA Harpy. I decided to not go with any number designations because why not? So actually, I can think of one thing that I haven't done real quick. One moment. As I was saying before I so rudely interrupted myself, this is the FA Harpy. It is a mostly biplane, technically ever so slightly a Seska plane, just because the lower wing is slightly narrower than the upper wing, but not by any significant portion, so I think most people would just refer to this as a biplane. It is armed with two very low caliber machine guns. These are 9mm, which is the smallest caliber we can have in the game. Realistically, they'd probably be 7.7, 7.62, that kind of a range. We have a little radial engine sticking through the cowling here, which produces about 550 kilowatts of power, which is not a huge amount, but it is what it is. And a three-blade propeller up in the front, and one singular little Jimmy sitting back there in the cockpit. Obviously, as you can see, a fixed landing gear arrangement, and this thing, I'm really proud of this fuselage. Actually, I think it feels right, if that makes sense. It feels like a plane. A lot of the time they feel like fly-out aircraft. This has just the right amount of I think utilitarian appearance while also not being so ugly that it's hideous, if you know what I mean. But maybe you don't, who knows. These guns just fire over the cowling there, which you can see. I have measured, it does go over. And they would have to have a synchronization gear because they are shooting straight through the propeller hub. We've got some exhaust stacks here, which don't really make a lot of sense on a radial engine, but given that it has got a cowling on it and a supercharger, that's not potentially the craziest thing in the world. So the idea behind this plane, obviously, is that it is quite an advanced plane for its era. They're probably trialing out a couple of things. Maybe it's not the most reliable aircraft in the world, but the performance for its time should be relatively good. So we'll give it a fly, and we'll see what that performance is like. Okay, so here we are on the runway. Now, we do have a little bit too low of an idle throttle, so I just got to give it a little bit of revs to get this going. I knew about the problem, I just haven't fixed it. And we do have... So I've made the rear wheel steerable, because in Flyout, for some reason, when you're on the ground, these planes just really like to yaw insanely aggressively. I don't really know what's going on. It does it with a fixed wheel as well, but as you can see, that's probably not just the torque of the engine. I get the feeling. Something is going on there, but we are up into the air. However, slightly unusually we got there, but, you know, we got there in the end, and we just got to get our trim right before I can free up the old plane into mouse... sorry, to leave mouse flight. Wow, I absolutely failed at speaking there, and I do think in this light, this thing looks really, really nice. I hope you agree, maybe. I'm still not particularly confident with the painting, so what I've done... I've gone around with materials, kind of just with one flat grey, so at the back you've got what's meant to be like a fabric-clad tail, fabric-clad wings, a wooden section around the fuselage and the lower nose here, and then a little bit of metal just where the guns are, and a little bit of the technical wiring and stuff for the engine. But yeah, this is about the plane, and as it is only powered by about 500 kilowatts of power, which is not a lot at all. Our top speed is just about scraping, I think, just under 300 kilometers an hour. I believe we got up to 290 something on my first flight. I'll just give it a shot, see if we can crack a little bit more, but it's not looking hugely promising. Yeah, we're capping out at 290 here. What I'll try and do, I'll give her a bit of altitude, so we'll climb up to maybe 4,000 meters and see how she does at a little bit higher altitude, which shouldn't actually be that much quicker because it is still just a piston engine, while it is supercharged, it's not exactly a great supercharger, so we'll see how she does. This may take a while, though, because the climb rate is... It's biplane, that's for sure. So as I climb, I just thought I'd show you the internal view of this thing. I haven't actually done a cockpit for this thing. I'm still not hugely confident in them. But as you can see, despite the fact that we've got a big old wing here, the visibility isn't as bad as maybe I expected. So there's that. Obviously, behind us we have this pillow with the cut in the middle. Very nice. But overall, you've got a fairly decent level of visibility in this thing. Obviously not as good as a monoplane, but not as bad as I was expecting. You know, as I climb, I have thought about one thing. Technically, this middle fuselage and the rear fuselage, because they're separate sections of the fuselage, they all have aerodynamics enabled. I'm wondering if that is applying a lot of drag. I don't think it is. I think we're okay. But maybe... maybe it is. Okay, because of how long this is taking to climb, I'm just going to call 3,000 meters good enough. We're going to see what kind of a top speed we can hit. Fingers crossed, if I fiddle with the prop pitch a little bit, we can crack 300. That would be really nice, but I'm not entirely confident. Okay, featuring much tweaking of the propeller, 300 has been hit. We got there in the end. What I might just do now is see if we turn off some of the aerodynamics here. Can we get a top speed that's maybe a little bit more befitting of an aircraft with this much horsepower? Because I believe we should be able to hit a little bit more than this with the engine that we've got. So let's see what we can do. Okay, we've done a bit of tuning. We've done a little bit of changing to the aerodynamics in maybe a slightly cheaty way. But look, it's fine. we're gonna try and take off nicely here. No guarantees, as of always, with taking off in Flyout with propeller aircraft. For some reason, I just can't make him take off nice. But there you go. That wasn't too bad. That was okay. In theory, I'm hoping that this engine will run a little closer to its peak RPM, which is about 1490. So that's pretty close. We can drop that a little bit, and now we should be generating ever so slightly more power, which is good for us, and the propeller should be at a pretty optimal RPM. In theory. This is all very much in theory. I am no great aerodynamicist. So, with these tweaks, can we break the 300 km an hour mark on the deck? Because we had to climb before to do it, and I kind of want to be able to do it without climbing, if you know what I mean. That feels like it would be an accomplishment. Maybe. Possibly. Who knows? Okay, it doesn't look like we're going to break this 300 km an hour barrier, but it gave it a damn good try, and we got pretty close, so I'll accept that. That's good enough. Agility is something to be desired. I mean, the sustained turn rate and the roll rate, definitely not bad, especially the yaw is pretty good. However, the actual flat turn rate is not spectacular. So this would probably be a bit more useful as almost just in terms of its speed and durability. I feel like this would be fairly good in those aspects, because it is quite large. It's not massive, but it is fairly large, and I feel like it's built with a relatively solid construction. So those would be my guesses for what this thing would be good at. I thought we were about to crack 300 in a straight line coming back to the airfield there. That would have been really, really embarrassing. But yeah, it's really controllable, actually. It may not have the best, overall turn rate, but in terms of predictability, it's quite good. And speaking about unpredictable, floating trees and houses and stuff like that. And of course, 2 9mm guns, which don't seem to be firing for whatever reason. I must have put the ammo in slightly wrong. I swear this was a 9mm drum, but I guess not. Okay. Sure. Can you only do 10mm drums? That might be the problem. Can't really remember. It's fine. It's not like we're going to shoot anything down with this thing anyway. And we do have bomb racks, just in case you want to load in a couple of, maybe 100-kilogram max bombs. I feel like this thing would be able to carry. It's not going to be a good bomb load, I can't lie. Okay, we just got to bring her in for landing now, and I believe keyboard controls should be fairly controllable for this thing. Now, our stall speed should, in theory, also be on the very, very low side. I don't know what it is, so I'm going to err on the side of caution here and keep it quite high before we touch down. We got a hell of a crosswind going on here. 32 kilometers an hour in a plane that only weighs about 1.8 tons dry and only about 2.3 tons fully loaded. So this is a bit treacherous, but in theory we should be able to quite comfortably get away with it once we touch down. Oh, it's doing weird stuff. But there we go. A little bit of damage to both wings, but I think it looks quite stylish with that damage. There is the first flight, well, not the first flight, the first, second, and third flight of the Harpy. I don't think you saw any of the second one, actually, so you probably only saw the first and third, but there you go, there you have it. What do you think this thing would be good at? Do you think it would be useful? Do you think it would be mass-produced? Do you think it would make it? And do you think it would have any significant impact should a war break out? If we're going for a World War II scenario, is this just too obsolete by the time that the front lines actually get hot? Is this just too antiquated for the situation that Chisford finds itself in now? let me know. And let me know either in the comment section below or in my Discord, which is going to be linked in the description. There is a vehicle lore channel, which we are currently using for it, but we might make a dedicated section for that. I just kind of want to clear out some channels before I do that, because it's getting a little bit overcrowded. But yes, that is all for today, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope you enjoyed this one. And if you did, please consider giving the channel a subscription. And let me know in the comments, of course. But that's all for now, and I'll see you in the future. Goodbye! And as always, a huge thank you to all of these many, many, many wonderful people who support my channel. Thank you so much, and thank you to all those people who have been gifting subs, which means I have this many that I can't read them out. You really don't have to keep doing that. Anyway, I appreciate it. Bye!